Does it yes, it works. It works. So welcome everybody to this new session. How to tame your AI, a crash course in prompt design. I'm expecting a lot here so to learn a lot. So we have Marina Pancheva from RWS and Balazs Kish, correct? Perfect. Yeah, perfect. From co-CEO of MemoQ. I will let them present themselves because they have a very nice slide as well with all the details. Okay.
So, do I start? Or do we start together? So hi everyone. This is Marina and I, and we split this session between the two of us. Marina will introduce you to text-to-text prompting, and I will introduce you to text-to-image prompting, and what you can learn from that. So you can see a few facts about me on the slide here. I don't really want to read it out. What it probably tells you is that I like learning new things, and I most often I like learning stuff that has nothing to do with whatever I was doing before, which is something that fascinates me. So and also drop me in a forest and I will have a greatest time. So thank you. It's your turn, Marina.
Thank you. And I'm Marina Pancheva from RWS. I'm Director of Linguistic AI Services. And I won't read out everything that is written there, but I just want to say that just like Balazs, I like learning new things. But what I like even more is telling people about what I've learned. Science communication and generally communication and outreach is my passion. So I'm really happy that today I can talk to you about prompt design and share some learnings that I have gathered throughout the last couple of months in my work. So as Balazs already mentioned, we are splitting this workshop into parts. The first part will be about monomodal AI. And for those of you who don't know, monomodal AI is AI. These are generative AI models that work with just one type of inputs, one type of information. For example, that would be text-to-text models, such as GPT 3.5, where you input text and they return text to you, and they cannot process anything else than text. But there are even more exciting types of models, and they are the multimodal AI, which is AI that can work with different types of information. For example, GPT-4 Vision, you can input text, but what you get back is a picture, an image. Or you can input a soundtrack, and what you get back is the transcription of this soundtrack. Or you can input an image, and what you can get back is the description of the image. So we will start with the more, let's say, vanilla flavor type of AI, and that is the text-to-text AI. And before we start working on the prompts, I first want to take a few minutes to talk about the different representation of language in the human brain and in AI. By the way, can you hear me when I stand here? Okay, then I don't need to kind of swallow the microphone. That's much better. That's much better. Okay, so in order to understand how to prompt text-to-text AI successfully, we need to understand how it thinks about language, because it processes language in a very different way from humans. So first about humans. We are phenomenal at language processing. You know, language is one of the three characteristics of the human species, and only humans have language. And we are very efficient. Our neural networks are extraordinarily efficient. In fact, our brains operate with just 20 watt-hours, which will dimly light a light bulb. We need so little energy to think. Yeah, nevertheless, some people don't do that, but anyways. And we learn language by an instinct. If you take a neurologically healthy child and have it submerged in a language environment, that is in an environment where it hears language, that child will spontaneously start talking at the age of 2. Okay? Without zero input before that, right? Newborn comes to this world. At the age of 2, this child will start talking spontaneously. You don't need to do anything about it. Just talk. But, for example, writing is not an instinct. Like, you can have a child growing up in a house full of books. that child will never start spontaneously writing because it's not an instinct. And children are also extraordinarily efficient in learning language. In fact, a child needs only to be exposed to about 4 million words to start talking. And 4 million words a child hears in the course of the first 2-3 years of its life. I'm not talking 4 million distinct words. It's 4 million instances of a word, right? Could be the same word in different sentences. So this is how language works in humans. Now, AI is very different. First of all, it's extraordinarily energy inefficient. For a GPT model to operate, it needs 60 megawatt hours. This is 3 million light bulbs, okay? So one dimly lit light bulb versus 3 million light bulbs that are illuminating the whole of New York, okay? Then AI doesn't have an instinct to learn a language. For an AI to start producing language, it needs to analyze trillions of words as opposed to 4 million. And it kind of mimics knowledge of language and extracts the rules of language by simply analyzing the surface statistical properties of the language without actually understanding what it's for. In a simple, like to put it simply, it learns what a word means by, or like what a word is, by the company that word keeps, by the other words that it appears together with. So it says hamburger, and it knows, yeah, hamburger usually co-occurs with eat and restaurant and McDonald's, for example. So that is it. So when we see the completion of an AI, when we see a response by an AI, always think that this is a text generator that works based on the statistical properties of the language, but actually doesn't have an idea about what it says. It does not understand language. So now let's move to prompt design. And before we can talk about prompting, I want to just cover some basic concepts, 6 basic concepts in AI. Probably you know most of them, but it's good to kind of set the terminology straight. First, prompt. Okay, what is a prompt? It's our input to the AI system with which we want to obtain specific results, right? We want some sort of a response. Then we have primary content. Primary content is usually part of the prompt, and this is the content we want the LLM to analyze. That is, if we want an LLM to evaluate the quality of a translation, then the translation is our primary content. We run the prompt on it, okay? If we want AI to assess the sentiment of a statement, of an utterance, is it positive feedback or negative feedback, this utterance is our primary content. If you want it to summarize the book is the primary content, okay? Then we have tokens. So LLMs don't work, large language models don't work with words, they work with tokens. They break down words into tokens. And the relationship is not one-to-one. In English, one word is typically 1.3 tokens. That is 100 words give you 130 tokens. But in Japanese, for example, one word is on average 3 tokens. So 100 words is 300 tokens. And the more complex the language is, the more tokens correspond to one word, and it also depends on the amount of training data and other factors. Then we have shots. Shots is a super fancy name for example. Okay, if you have an example in a prompt, that's shots. If you have a one-shot prompting, you have one example. How many examples do you have in two-shot prompting? 2 examples. Yeah, easy, okay? And then another thing, context window. Context window is the limit of how many things an LLM can keep in the back of its mind when performing a task. That is, how big is the prompt you send to it, and it needs to keep it in its mind. What is the size of the primary content, and what is the expected response that you want. So suppose you want an LLM to summarize a book, right? Then its context window needs to be large enough for you to send the prompt, the book, and also get the response, the summary. All of that, the sum of all of that, is the context window. With the new models, the context windows are now really becoming very, very large. The newest ChatGPT 4 has a context window of about 300 PDF pages, okay, which would be like Harry Potter 2 or something like that, yeah? To Kill a Mockingbird, like a whole book. Okay, and finally we have completion, and that's another fancy name for LLM response, okay? The output from the system. Good. Now let's move to types of prompts. They can be categorized according to different categories. So when it comes to process, you have informational, creative prompts, like write me a story about a little girl who thinks there are dragons living under her bed, or reasoning prompts. I don't want to go into too much detail of the first two categories, like the tasks, summarization, classification, and so on. I want to focus on format and variance. Variance, not a good word, but I couldn't come up with a better one. So first, format. We have close-ended prompts. A close-ended prompt is a prompt that wants the LLM to provide a response, a completion, that comes from a set of predefined options. For example, you want to ask an LLM, you want an LLM to evaluate whether a given translation contains an error or not. And you tell it, analyze the sentence and say true if it has an error, false if it hasn't. So these are the only options for the LLM. And now the trick is to write a prompt such that the LLM tells you true or false, because those things will come back and tell you yes, no, or it has an error, it doesn't have an error. So a good prompt will ensure that the LLM just comes back with true and false, okay? And then we have open-ended prompts, and these are prompts which give options to the LLM. The answer can be anything, it's a creative answer. So that would be a prompt such as, analyze the quality of this translation and report the issues you found, okay? Can be anything. It's not like a predefined list, can be anything. And the most interesting type of prompt, for me, distinction, is master prompt versus customized prompt. Now, master prompts are a sort of, let's think about it as a universal prompt or a prompt template that is highly reusable, okay? For example, you want to have a prompt for evaluating translation quality, then you design a master prompt and you want to run it on any language. You don't want to have a prompt for every language in your EOL, okay? But sometimes there are languages which have some characteristics, there is something specific, or the data is very specific, and the master prompt doesn't produce good results. In such case, you need to customize the prompt to reflect the specificity of the language and of the data set. It's better to stick to the master prompt as soon as possible, because you see it is very scalable, reusable, and it doesn't create variation, right? But sometimes it's inevitable to have customized prompts. And now going to the actual prompt design, the most important technical type of prompts are system prompts, user prompts, and assistant prompts. And any large language model from the large providers actually sticks to this distinction. No matter whether it is OpenAI or it is Anthropic, they do have this distinction. So it's worth spending some time on figuring out what they do. A system prompt is a prompt that provides the main objective, the instructions, the context, and the guidelines to a large language model. It basically sets the stage for the task and tells the LLM what it has to do and what role it must play. This role is very often called also the persona of the LLM. Like, imagine you are an architect or a linguist. User prompt is the actual specific example of the task. So while the system prompt has the general instructions and guidelines, user prompt is do this, evaluate this translation. And then we have assistant prompts, and these are basically examples that we can include in the compositional prompt, where we want to help the LLM understand, if we have this question, then a good answer is this one. Assistant prompts are usually a pair of example question and example answer. So today we are going to focus in this part on prompts for evaluating the quality of translation, like AILQA, because I think this is the part that we are most interested in, and also the ones that is hardest to get right. So let me give you the kind of prompt. I know it's very small, but I couldn't fit it. Yeah, but I'll read it all aloud. Yeah. Let me give you an example of a system prompt, right? So it goes as follows. You are an excellent Italian reviewer, specialized in English to Italian localization. This is our persona. Your task is to review English to Italian translation pairs and detect any localization errors in the translated content, considering the following error severities. This is our task. And then we say, what are the severities? Critical severity is used for errors that, are bad. Their error value is 50. Notice that I've put 50 in XML tags. Large language models from the big providers are trained to parse XML tags. And if you want to have some very specifically defined value returned from them, enclose it in tags. That's going to help the parsing a lot and ensure a more consistent response. Then we say that high severity is assigned to errors that have noticeable impact on the quality. They may affect the overall understanding, the general MQM thing. Their error value is 10. And minor severity is used for errors with minimal impact on the understanding. Their error value is 1. These are our guidelines. Okay, so we have the role, the task, the guidelines. And then we say, calculate the total error value according to the identified errors, because we want to get a score. Okay? Then we have the user prompt. This is what you actually got to do. Evaluate the following pair. Source language, English. Source segment, I love data science. Target language, Spanish. Target segment, me encanta la ciencia de datos. Okay? So, is it a good translation? Is it not a good translation? And we want to help you. We want to give an example. So, as an example, we add to the prompt. Now, if you get the question, evaluate the following pair, source language English, source segment I love data science, target language French, target segment j'adore la science des données, then the correct answer that we expect from you is total error points 1 and an explanation that the translation has a minor error because the correct translation is science des données instead of science de données. Okay, there is an S missing. Fine. So, now let's get going and hope that the internet connection is good enough. We will be building an LQA prompt. Let me see how much time I have. Anybody tracking the time? Yeah, I have 17 minutes. That's such a luxury. Okay, maybe I was going too fast. I'm sorry for that. Watch the recording. Play it at half speed. That's my usual problem. Okay, so we will be running an LQA on translation pairs. So I have pre-prepared a data sample which contains translation pairs. The way it goes is the following. We have a source language, and it's English in all cases. Then we have a source segment, and the source segment says, I am embarrassed because I don't speak some language well. And the language I don't speak well is the language into which this sentence needs to be translated. So I'm embarrassed because I don't speak, Japanese well, must be translated into Japanese. I'm embarrassed because I don't speak English well, must be translated as into, it shouldn't be translated into English because it's in English. Okay, Spanish well, then it must be translated to Spanish, okay? Then we have the target language, then we have the translations. Some of them contain errors on purpose, others don't contain errors. Some of them contain critical errors, others don't. Okay, so now we want to run an LQA prompt on that sample and ask the large language model, and I'll be working with GPT models, to evaluate the quality report error score and an explanation what is bad. So I have a little app here. Unfortunately, I cannot really zoom it. So it's really small font because I need to change the resolution of the screen and I don't want to do that. So I'll be reading everything out and I'll be explaining to you what I'm doing. Feel free to move forwards if it's too small, and I'm sorry for that. This is kind of a play app which I have just to demo prompts, right? It's a bit rudimentary and the prompt is rudimentary. So just a disclaimer, this prompt that I'm going to show you here is not the ultimate LQA prompt, okay? Don't try that at home, or rather, try that at home, but don't deploy it in your services, okay? So what I have here are prompts. I have a system prompt, which says, you are an excellent, and now pay attention, I'm not hard coding the language. I'm putting here, you're an excellent target language translator, because I want to have a master prompt, applicable universally and reusable. So I don't want to have one prompt for Italian and another one for German. I want to have one prompt, and then I want to plug in the word German, Italian, Spanish, French, whatever, at runtime. So I'm using placeholders. You're an excellent target language reviewer specialized in source language to target language translations. And your task is to review a source language to target translation pair and detect any localization errors. And then come those critical, the high and minor severity definitions that we already saw. And then we say, calculate the total error points and give them as total error points and think twice before you respond. And if you don't know anything, don't make it up, just come back and ask for clarification. Yeah. So this is our system prompt. Then we have the user prompt. And the user prompt is the sentence on which the evaluation must be done, right? Evaluate the following pair: source language placeholder, source segment, then the source segment comes in. It can be different at every run. Target language placeholder, and then the target language segment gets populated. And I have created two assistant prompts. One is evaluate the following pair: source language ENUS, target language, I'm embarrassed because I don't speak French well. Je suis embarrassée parce que je ne parle bien français. And then the answer that I expect is, well, it would have been better if you used a different translation of embarrassed, like je n'ai, because embarrassée doesn't sound so good. And then I have another assistant prompt. You can have as many assistant prompts as you want, as many as it's practical, and as many as it's safe to not confuse the model, because prompts must be short, clear, and concise. So if you put too much, then the model just gets distracted in a way. Okay, so our second prompt is about Norwegian. So I'm embarrassed because I don't speak Norwegian well. Jeg fløy fordi jeg ikke snakker godt norsk. It actually has a mistake. It doesn't have the negation. For those who speak Norwegian, and I'm sure there are many of you here. So the translation in Norwegian, that's the answer we expect, has a critical mistranslation error because it doesn't contain the negation. Okay, so we feed it a wrong sentence and we say we expect that you tell us this is 50 error points, it's critical, and the problem is there is no negation. Fine. So first thing I'm going to do is, I think this is this is probably my first one. Hope that the internet connection is good. I'm going to run all of these prompts in the following sequence. First, I have the system prompt, general task description. Then I have a user prompt, apply your evaluation to this segment. Then I have the first assistant prompt, the French example. Then I have the second assistant prompt. Now I'm going to run it. Count till 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, just 4 seconds. Last time it was 6. And let's read the responses. The responses are in the column called completion, right? We can, if you want, we can actually even evaluate, but I don't think we will go through all of that. Okay. First completion. Oh, I'm so sorry for the mistake in my previous response. Total hallucination. The correct translation in Norwegian would be, like, no, the first one is about Italian. Second one, again, it's about Bulgarian. Apologize for the mistake, and the Norwegian translation would be, so as you see, it's like totally wrong. It's super confused. Why is it confused? The reason it is confused is because of the order of the prompts that we had, okay? We start with system, then we have user, then we have example 1, example 2. Example 2 is about Norwegian, and the poor thing thinks it's all about Norwegian, okay? And then it doesn't know what to do, and then typically LLMs apologize when they don't know what to do. Fine. So it didn't work well. And as a prompt designer, you need to analyze, what is it? What is it? The word Norwegian that pops up in almost all the answers tells us, well, maybe it got like thrown off the right way by the Norwegian assistant prompt. And here I must make a note. This is GPT 3.5 Turbo, as you can see. And in OpenAI models, you should put the user prompt last and the assistant prompt before that. But that is not so. That's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take the user prompt and put it last. But that's not a universal rule. If you work with Anthropic's Claude, then they work better if you put the examples last. So whatever whatever I say now, it's guidelines, tips, ideas, okay? Not universally applicable. Every LLM has its own specificities, and a prompt designer must figure them out. And by now, it's known that for Anthropic, you put first user, then example prompts. For LLMs that come from OpenAI, you do it the other way around. You know, maybe Meta is like Llama is a completely different thing. So now let's try again. Let's see what will happen now. I'm still running GPT 3.5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. The connection is better. Okay, so what do we have? First, Italian. 1 error point. The translation in Italian is almost perfect. The only minor error is the use of feminine imbarazzata instead of the masculine imbarazzato, which is maybe good, yeah, to match the gender of the speaker. No, we don't know what the gender of the speaker is. That's not correct. Then Bulgarian, almost correct. There's a minor error. The word dobre should be placed before the verb govoria, which it is not because it actually follows it. So another hallucination, like total hallucination. So not good. Let's go to German. German has a spelling issue. Deutsch is written without an S. Okay, just a minor spelling issue, which probably many people will just totally ignore. But according to the LLM, it has a high severity error. No, this is not. I mean, we've spent with Katka ages to convince reviewers that the spelling issue is not critical, okay? So it's not. So what's wrong here? Well, obviously, GPT 3.5 just doesn't get it. And then, instead of going and changing the master prompt and starting to customize it and kind of adapt it to every language, first thing that a prompt designer should do is try a different model. Okay, try a different model. So let's change to GPT-4. I need to run call the test, the demo run differently. Now it should be 14. 1, 2, 3. Maybe I can take a question while we're waiting, yeah. Yeah, actually that's not a bad idea. Any questions? It's a little thing we developed to demo. Yeah, it's not production app. It's like really, that's why it's so basic. Yeah. There you go. Let's see. I mean, it's really about whether you agree or not. I don't know what it will respond. I haven't done it before. So, Italian, we have a high severity error because the English sentence does not specify the gender, but the Italian translation uses the marked form, indeed, of feminine. Okay, embarrassed feminine. Correct translation would be to use the masculine form if the speaker is male, and also if the feminine form is the speaker is female. And because we don't know what the speaker is, what gender, then we need to go for the default masculine form, like gender-neutral language aside, okay? Which actually LLMs are still not trained on gender-neutral data, so they make very good judgments without this additional layer of the political correctness, okay? Brilliant, perfect, that's exactly what it is, I totally agree. Bulgarian, the translation is correct, it is. English, the translation in English has a critical error because what it says is it's me omdat het niet goed Engels spreek, okay? So the translation is, I'm embarrassed because I don't speak well English instead of Dutch. It's a very severe accuracy error. Let's go to Spanish, my favorite example. Estoy embarazada porque no hablo bien español. Now, I can imagine situations where this could be true, okay? But generally, it's not an accurate translation because what it basically says, I'm pregnant because I don't speak well Spanish, since embarazada is one of those false friends, and it does not mean embarrassed. And it correctly assigns 50 points. All the rest is correct. So Korean, well, actually Korean, I cannot judge myself because I don't speak Korean and Japanese. Any Korean, Japanese native speakers here? Is it okay? The translation of the Japanese?
No, I think it was fine earlier.
Oh, okay, good. Then we have Indonesian, no idea. Swedish, yes, totally correct. Critical error because it does not have the negative particle inte. So it actually says, I'm embarrassed because I do speak Swedish well. Okay. So, this is pretty good. GPT-4 gets it. Assigns accurate error points and explains in an adequate way what the problem is. What I'm bothered by is that it's very wordy. Like you need to really, I mean, you could say it in a shorter way, right? And this is a typical problem with LLMs. They are extraordinary verbose. But we can fix that. So let's go and change the system prompt because we want to give that instruction, you know, to apply all the time. So let's say answer in 30 words, 20 words. Do I still have time, Balázs? Okay, that's the last run. Okay, so I need to now save that. Hope this, nah, I will try without saving it. So I'll remove the old prompt, add the new system prompt saying be short, and I need to put it first. So let's run this one final try and see whether we will get it short, 20 words. Questions?
I have one question. When you're talking about the different user system prompts, etc., is it combined in a single
Mega prompt.
It's
Yeah.
not concatenated, right? It's a single.
Yes, you can see actually what it looks like here in the preview. What you get is a concatenation of all the prompts. This is what is sent through the API call to the API. Yes. It's counted at once. In fact, I find it a bit confusing, the terminology that is used, because to me, user, system, and assistant are prompt components. And when you put them together, you get one compositional prompt. But in the NLP world, in the AI researchers, who are not linguists, obviously, talk about that as prompts, right? So then you can say we have prompts, and then we have a compositional prompt that we send to the LLM. Let's look at the responses. Brilliant. Let's hope they are correct. I think they are. So we have 10 points for Italian, because if the speaker's gender is unknown, it's better to use masculine form. Let's see Dutch. It has a critical error because, no, that's totally wrong. It shouldn't be Netherlands instead of English. Oh, yeah, no, it should be. Yeah, correct, that's correct. Then Deutsch should be with the S and so on. So I would say that's a pretty successful prompt. But not enough to run it in real production, just warning, because the data sample that we run it on is fairly easy, okay? It's not the kind of text we work with. So this is just an example how to approach building a prompt, and I wish you good luck in your prompt design work. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. So this is one of the reasons why you will want to watch these presentations afterwards, because there was so much information in this, which, I mean, I learn new things, and I set out there because I wanted to see what's happening there. But now, for something almost completely different, I could say that AI goes to therapy. Because I will share with you one of my favorite pastimes that started off as a kind of a stress management. It started when I learned that there are image generators based on multimodal AI. So they take a text description and it would give me an image. Okay, I must try this. Earlier on in my introduction, you could see that I like photography, but I like visual arts, but then I can't draw or paint, unlike Marina. So I need another outlet where I can test my writing skills and then get the images out of that. And that actually turned out to be good for pretty much two things. One of them is you want to create visuals for whatever presentation or report or whatever you want to create, and this presentation is an example of that. Almost all the illustrations that you see in this presentation was generated by DALL-E 3, which actually I have to say that because it needs to be credited. So it is when I asked ChatGPT an early incarnation about its own terms of service. First it said that, no, I don't have access to my own terms of service. But then I kept prodding, and that gave me a link, and it told me that, yes, I can use it, I can claim it, but I have to say that it's Balázs X DALL-E 3 or DALL-E 2, because that's what I started with. So this is one of the uses that I found, but the other, the more interesting one, is that it kind of helps you understand how the AI thinks or doesn't think. So what Marina said was about how the AI approaches languages, and I'm not going into megawatts and the energy consumption, which remains true with this, but what I want to call your attention to is that even if it's multimodal, that doesn't mean it has the senses and has the connection to reality. The AI still remains the language, pure and simple language. So this is what language would look like without the connection to reality through our eyes and ears and nose and whatever. There's a lot to learn about that, and this is something that I would want you to encourage, because one thing that I've been teaching computers to humanities students pretty much all my life. And one of the things to combat technophobia, which is amplified by the emergence of AI systems, that it was always there. So I had a student in 2005 who said that, no, I'm not touching a computer while translating, I'm sorry. And okay, I asked him how, it was a he, I asked him, okay, how should I grade you? Because I'm supposed to teach you to use the computers. If you're not touching a computer, then, okay, so let's figure this out. And one of the ways to combat that is to give ourselves a grasp over how the AI behaves, how it responds to what we do. And image generators are a direct insight, a direct mirror of what's going on in the AI. We have a much simpler prompt structure, so I don't want to go into the kind of deconstruction that we saw with the text-to-text prompts, where we need to achieve a certain task. Here we might also want to achieve a certain task, but here simplicity is key. So basically, when you prompt an image, your prompt will consist of 3 parts. You get the style, you say what you want to get. Photorealistic image, kind of a photo, or I tried Cubist art. And then you might say a format. Now DALL-E introduced the menu for that. What do I want? A perfect square or a widescreen image or whatever. And then I do, and this is what the earliest samples contain, depicting, and then you say the subject of the image, as simply as possible. So basically, these are guidelines which you want to follow when you want to create visuals for a purpose, for yourself to use. So it doesn't, if it gets too long, even if it's structured, even if it contains lists or whatever, parts of that will be ignored. If there's a list of items, I will shortly show you what happens. And if you specify numbers, don't expect the AI to honor the numbers. So it was still with DALL-E 2, but I told it to, okay, generate a picture of a stage with 3 microphones. I got 4, 5, 2, and 8 microphones at the 4 attempts. But the most interesting thing that happened that proved beyond any doubt that the AI had absolutely no grasp of the use of things, of the reality thing. I asked it to generate, like, Alicia gave me this last one. You need to hear it on vinyl. That's what this label says. So I asked it to generate a turntable with a vinyl record of it playing, and it just couldn't get the position of the tone arm right, because it didn't have an idea of what it is good for and how sound is generated from a vinyl record. That's an example. So I tried to list a number of animals. Give me a grassy plain, that check. Following animals, there are animals. You don't see an object that is not an animal, with a few hills, but that fits the grassy plain. But what are those animals? You get all those hybrids, right? So, I mean, that's just one example here. And there are a number of tools that would give you images. So, and there are some that are really practical, because I still found the highest quality and of the public ones. So there's one project I'm still running. I'm building a PC to run Midjourney locally. but I haven't completed that because I had to. This is a leisure project for myself, so obviously lack of time. But of the publicly available ones, it's still OpenAI DALL-E 3 that gives you the highest quality images with the easiest control. One of the reasons it gives you the easiest control is then it gets conversational. So it gives you two attempts, and then you can continue prompting until it's refined. Sometimes it goes completely sideways, and that's the best. Then the best thing is to either simply click to open a new session, or say that let's start over, prompt again. And there's a simplified version of that. That's the Microsoft Copilot Designer. If that you have that when you have a Microsoft 365 subscription, that is DALL-E 3 without the conversational interface. Interesting. Stable diffusion is an interesting thing. It's not bad. The public incarnations. There's a number of open source public incarnations of that, and it has. An interesting trait with the default settings. DALL-E 3 will over-generate. So you specify the subject, you specify what you want to see, and it will give you more. Stable diffusion will give you less. So I gave this same prompt to Stable Diffusion, and it gave me 2 animals, which were correct, but not the whole list. And like I said, I have this project of building a PC to run Midjourney. Locally, I'm still doing that. I haven't done that. But then there's a lot of designer tools for instance, in Canva. We use Canva with my daughter who is going to art school. Or I do my private blogs in WordPress, and WordPress has an AI-based logo generator that you can use. Which I didn't use, and generated the logo for my latest project in DALL-E 3, but never mind. So, and the important thing is keep it simple. For instance, you get lovely little logos. Create a black outline logo depicting 2 mean birds resting on a sunbed. And this is what you get. But do avoid listing a lot of things, and do avoid complex sentence structure. Because the AI will get lost, part of your prompt will be ignored, and the image will be confusing. But sometimes, and now comes the interactive part, sometimes you can do it for fun, and it will also help you understand your AI. I'm just going to launch the thing, but don't vote yet. I hope it was started, please. Because I want to, it seems it's running. I want to explain the task. So we will choose a picture in Slido, and then we will prompt it. Does everyone has the Slido wanted to join? Did it connect? Okay, thank you. And I put 3 images here. These are not AI generated. These are real life photos, as strange it would seem, especially the first one. But it is a real life photo. It's I think it's a Czech guy running around in a baseline Canon EOS camera, taking black and white pictures. I have the same here. So, and was taking pictures like that. For the one on the is it on the left? On the left. Sorry, I have problems distinguishing my left and right hand. You need heavy rain. And for the other one, probably it's photoshopped, because this color of a sky, either you get it or you don't. And the last one is, I think it's my own photos, bearing this, one of my own photos. But only one of them. I took the rest of them from Instagram. So, if you made your choice, let's see where we are. Where are we? I need my, okay, show results. Can I show the results? Please, what's happening? It doesn't say, because launched it, but it was... Okay. Yeah. So this phone lost the connection. Yeah, okay. It's lost the connection. I'm going back to the... So we could take a few seconds to vote. And then, still, if the results don't change for 10 seconds, I will stop it. Okay, they're still coming in. Everybody loves this tram on the left. But remember, you will need to prompt this. So the next task will be an open text through Slido. You will need to send me prompts. And I will choose one or two and transfer it to ChatGPT, to DALL-E 3, and see the result. In the meantime, and I think I can stop this. I can, because this was, okay, it's a bit, poll was deactivated. And how do I get to the other one? Okay, and so this left on one, the tram one. So now I need the prompts. So I will need to, it will show this. We will wait 1 or 2 minutes, because obviously it's a challenge to type on our mobiles. But in the meantime, I'm going to tell you about an experiment I made a couple of months ago. What I did was I took photos with this camera at a concert or at a conference. I fed the image to ChatGPT and asked for a description. And then I fed its own description back as a prompt, which I shouldn't have done, because as Marina pointed out, this was extremely verbose. DALL-E, take into account that DALL-E doesn't know this image. So you need to prompt the image. It doesn't know the image. We are not making changes to the image. We are trying to reproduce it. And what I did, I fed it back as a prompt to DALL-E. Any guesses what it did? Any guesses what it did to that? So imagine a stage with a rock concert, with a rock band playing. It's not a very orderly site, is it? So what it did, it made order. So you got a different number of musicians than there were really on the stage. I think there were 4. I got 3, 5, 6, whatever, and they were standing in line. So it did look like a concert, but it says, yeah, they were subjected to some military exercises or whatever, because it created order. One thing you need to know about DALL-E 3, when you say Salvador Dali, it used to work in DALL-E 2. But when you say a name, even if the Salvador Dali died later than 70 years ago, why am I saying 70 years? Copyright, because every work of people who died more than 70 years ago are by default public domain. Those who died more recently are still subject to copyright, and that DALL-E will refuse to do it. Get good. It's the so-called Rome Convention from sometime in the 60s. So countries that signed it are subject to it. Unfortunately, countries that didn't sign it include the United States and China. So, so let's. Thank you. I got one on paper. Can I try this? And I really want to find out how ChatGPT will react to the, where is ChatGPT in the same window? And it's not here. It's still, can I stop this? So you can still send me prompts, but there are still, why am I not getting these here? Let me just refresh. Because I want, yeah, I have it. I wanted to have these prompts in a way that I can copy and paste them. So, but I will type this first. Let's go to ChatGPT. I was trying it first to see if it works. Sometimes it gives up. So let's try this first. Let me just forward it. And we still have 10 minutes. So let's do this. And you can see into some of my fantasies, whatever, because I'm obviously using my imagination, and I'm going to show you something afterwards, but I'm going to use this white image, and I will just transfer this, and let's see what it does. I like the thinking that you need to tell it the basics, that tram runs on rails. And
Can you read it out loud?
yeah, of course. And so it's black and white image, in brackets, man with umbrella, in brackets, tram on rails, in brackets, heavy rain, add vertical grain. So this takes a bit longer than a text-to-text prompt. Sometimes it takes really long, so we need to talk through it. And it's not a good idea to switch away from the browser window, because this interface is buggy. It's the interface, it's not the AI. The AI is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Not bad at all.
And you even knew which side to put the tram.
But look at the rails. It has the usual problem with the rails.
Yes.
Physics. Yeah? So how does this run? And where are the rails? Why is the man in the middle of the track? Whatever. So and I really generated a lot of train stations and whatever. And I was trying to, another experiment I made, that I asked it to create a photorealistic image based on a verse from a poem, and then a translation of a verse from a poem, and I tried the depiction, then I was looking at the differences. Okay, let's try something else. I have all the prompt now. This is yours, Marina, but it looks similar, and I keep forgetting that I'm in one browser window, so I need to go back here. And okay, it doesn't know the triple click. This is a problem for me, but not for long. Triple click is supposed to select the entire paragraph. This one doesn't do it. Again, Control Tab. And let's just start a new session to be on the safe side, so that it doesn't have anything to remember. And I'm not criticizing the prompts. Like in a previous workshop, there are no wrong answers here. So what we want to do is understand, have a look into. This is why I said into how this thing works. This is why I said at the beginning that, yeah, this is when AI goes to therapy, because we are analyzing it. And look as it's drawn with a pencil. And what I like, again, it couldn't help itself but give you, because what it does, it takes your prompt, turns it into something much more verbose in the background, and uses that as the compositional prompt. It isn't really, but it's a reformulated prompt, and it gives some of it back to you. You see, you can see, but what I'm impressed with this because there is a certain image type that's called a pencil drawing. But if you say pencil drawing to DALL-E, it will put a lot of pencils on the image. It will. Try it. Sometimes I couldn't get around it once, and I had to actually crop the picture so that the pencils are not there. Everything else was perfect. So, okay, let's see something more, but again, not Alt Tab, but Control Tab, and now the triple click worked. Okay, that must be the touchpad here. Okay, again a new session. So at one point it will have enough. And actually, LLMs are really polite, but once I got ChatGPT get testy with me. So I will look it up, but it was a situation where it misunderstood that I was looking, it wasn't even ChatGPT, it was Copilot. But I was looking for a title of a book which sounded quite offensive, and I accidentally rolled my mouse wheel upwards. So it activated Copilot, and it believed it was a message to it. But I was simply searching for create an artistic black and white photo depicting Prague in the rain with a tram at a tram stop and a man with an umbrella. Beautiful, amazing. I'm not sure if the tram has wheels on the second image, but yeah, it's like, again, it's good. And how it is Prague, because once, for instance, I gave the instruction that I want a Central European city in the background, and I got the gherkin from London. So that also happened. No, again, this is beautiful, but okay. Okay, because this one, I like this one because it's brief and simple, but let's see what ChatGPT will make of it. Again, another session. And this is something you could do. So for DALL-E 3, you need an OpenAI subscription, a private one. You don't need a team or a business subscription. And then you need to enroll because there's, I remember that, I don't know how Adam, our information security guy, got on DALL-E 3 like 2 months ahead of me, because it said that, okay, wait until October the 27th and then you will be admitted, and I was, but yeah, so it's not always easy. 1920s tram, create a grainy black and white image of a 1920s tram in the rain with person waiting to get on. You don't need to be grammatical even. And okay, no umbrella was specified, no umbrella was included on the image. So that is also nice. And photorealistic image in black and white of a long road with rain, a tram on. Okay, this, to me, this prompt says a bit too much detail, but I might be wrong here. So let me just get this out of here. Excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I wanted to get this one. Okay, we still have 2 minutes, so this will be the last one. In the meantime, Laura?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with DALL-E, so it's really a question of how it works. Can you also submit your own picture and ask?
I tried that once, but I couldn't really make it work, so I would say a tentative yes. But I don't have a whole lot of experience with that. Midjourney is supposed to, you just need to find the interface. That's one of the reasons why I want to fire up a PC with Midjourney running locally on that. And now I finally figured out that I will need a GPU in an external case so that I don't have to replace the power supply in the PC, stuff like that. Because a normal PC comes with a power supply of between 90 and 250 watts. And an NVIDIA 3000 series GPU would require 650, but to be on the safe side, it would require for an entire PC 800 watts, which is not commonly sold in an average PC or PC case. So this is, and the first image, long road, we got the long road, and the first image, I'm not sure if the tram will hit the man. And this is when I go into stuff like because I have the conversational interface, I can try to refine. And the way these, let me just give you this. I think this was one try. No, it was 2 tries, because I wanted to. So this is one of the illustrations from the presentation. So create a photorealistic black and white widescreen image depicting a silly-looking robot looking at an empty sheet of paper with a puzzled face. And well, the problem was that the empty sheet wasn't impressive enough, although we did use the first image. But then I wanted to say that, okay, that has to be at least lorem ipsum on the image, and this is. We used one of these as well, but this is how you refine, so include another detail. But beware, if you go too deep with this, then some other details from the original prompt will start to get lost. And finally, I want to show you something, and then we can call it a day. I made this a blog, which is absolutely a fun project of mine. It's called Third Tower, like thirdtower.ai. Third Tower is actually a place in San Marino. It's one of the watchtowers in San Marino that's the farthest away from the city center. And it was written about by a Hungarian writer called Antal Szerb, which is something I'm going to show you on LinkedIn or whatever. And this is where I take these prompting exercises and give you some analysis of what happened with these images. So this is what I actually did take AI to therapy. But that is a fun project of mine. So there's also an Instagram account of the same name. So I hope this was interesting. I hope some of you will sign up for this and try this because it's good fun. And it's also good learning about how the AI works. So thank you very much, and see you at the gala dinner. Excuse me?
Are we taking questions?
Well, we can take questions, but we can also, call it a day. Because I cut it off because it was time.
Okay.
So